Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast is under review. I'm your host, Liam Green, here with Ryan Pulsiver, and we're doing our takes now for the Western Conference. You may have seen previously, it should have gone up either before or after this episode is airing. We did our predictions and our hot takes maybe is probably the better word, for the Eastern Conference, and now we're doing the West. Um, Same format as before, assuming you watched that episode before. If you haven't, we're doing standings prediction and also fun little things that we think will happen per team. And that's basically the format. I don't think it's anything too shocking. So welcome. And we're going to start things off. We'll get right into it as well. I should mention there was also a timer. We're going to keep that timer, or if you haven't watch them before, again, we have a timer. It's set for 4 minutes that we sort of share. We're probably not going to care too much about the timer. Maybe for the first couple of ones, and we'll see what happens.
I was like, don't admit we don't care this early on. You're not wrong, but don't admit it.
Yeah, we have a timer, and that's what's important. Anyway, so we're gonna start here in the Central Division, and that means we are beginning with is it Colorado? I believe it is.
Chicago.
No, it's Chicago. Right, okay. I forgot how the alphabet works. Yes, it's Chicago, of course.
I don't want to say it's been a trend. Although you did say Carolina and the Atlantic. I don't think it's an alphabet thing.
It's a trend.
All right. I was gonna just say you were making mistakes. You just wanted to go with you don't know the alphabet. That's all right.
That's fine. I'll accept that I don't know the alphabet. Without further ado, let's get into it. Chicago. It's a team in the National Hockey League, is what I'll say. It is certainly a team in the National Hockey League. I don't think that can be disputed. I like your gets at the most recent off season. Teravainen, I think, probably especially was a solid get. You also added Tyler Bertuzzi from Leafs legend Tyler Bertuzzi. Martinez as well was an interesting thought. Laurent Brossoit as well, backing up Peter Mrazek, assuming Peter Mrazek is your starter. I think that's a fine goaltending tandem. I don't hate it, but I'm not super high up on it, I'll say. It's probably the best words I can put it in. I think your defense is fine as well. It doesn't wow me. Your top pairing, at least according to Puckpedia, is Martinez and Jones. That's fine. Your second pairing is Vlasic and Brody, TJ Brody. I also think that's fine, but your offense maybe leaves a bit to be desired. Again, you did get Teravainen and you got Bertuzzi. Those, as again, according to Puckpedia, that's who you're slotting in with Connor Bedard, who you are banking on because, of course, you're banking on him. But like the remainder of your lines, they're not really doing anything for me. And as a result, I have Chicago sitting at 7th. I don't think they're going to do like a full-on tank job. I think they're going, there's a reason they got Teravainen, there's a reason they got Bertuzzi, there's a reason they got Martinez, right? And Brossoit as well. Like they're putting in more work to keep the team competitive. I still don't think that they're at that, they're at that intersection to do it. I think it could be possible. I wouldn't be shocked if they fight for a wild card. I don't think they're going to get very high up there, but it wouldn't necessarily shock me. My predictions is that they're in the conversation, maybe come trade deadline. We'll see how that shakes out. And Bedard has a sophomore slump, but it doesn't last for very long.
You have Bedard in a sophomore slump and think they're going to be in wildcard conversations.
I said slump for not very long.
He can't slump for 30-second shifts if this team's going to be competitive. And here's the hint, they're not. Teravainen and Bertuzzi. Cool. And you know what? I actually like their top 6 wingers in general. Ilya McKay was another ad that you forgot. He was a quiet ad. They got him and a second round pick. That was a good move on their part. Taylor Hall's still on the team. I actually think their top 6 wingers, pretty good. Top line center Bedard, pretty good. The bottom 6, whatever. Polina's fine. The rest of it doesn't do anything for me. I think you give too much credit to the defense. Martinez is 37, Brody's 34, and showed that age last year in Toronto. Murphy's 31, Seth Jones is 30. Again, and I said this a couple times last episode, old for no reason. Except this might be the most egregious case of it, because you're Chicago. I don't know, like that defense to me is really poor. You need Vlasic to have a big year. Seth Jones needs to be the guy that they acquired him to be. Goaltending is actually not bad. I think it's probably the most stable part of the team. Mrazek performed fairly well last year. Brossoit's a really good backup. This team's last in the division. Let's not do any showboating around. I know that there are a couple teams in this division that are there's not even that many teams that are four. There's kind of two teams that I think are probably the bottom two teams. This is the bottom team. I think Teravainen's going to hit 70 points. It'll be pushing a career high for him. He hit it back in 2018-19, just barely. I think he'll get back to that level, which is, kind of big for him. He didn't really have that offensive high in Carolina. I don't think it matters. This team's not very good, like at all. I think you're giving them too much credit. Unless Bedard and like Parashev and Reichel can really lead them, I don't think there's much here. I will say, I'm going to be very interested to see if Korchinski is back in the NHL at any point this season. Him being sent down, I don't think was the wrong decision. I'm not sure he should have been there last year. Defensemen take longer to develop. I'm not worried about that. And he wasn't all that last year, so that's fine. I did want to highlight it though, because I thought it was an interesting change from last season's roster. But yeah, this team sucks.
So from Chicago, we then move on to Colorado, and you'll start this one off because I did this. I did the same courtesy for you for Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So Colorado's depth. That's a conversation. I will say one piece I'm very excited to see a full season out of is Kovalenko. I think he looked really good in what I've seen of him so far. I think he's going to have a big year for the team. The stars are the stars. I think Drouin's going to do what he did last year. Yeah, the bottom six does not wow me in any way, shape, or form. A couple guys that are serviceable, but like I'm okay with that being your problem as a team. That's fine. The defense core, it's got some high-end names, not worried. Goaltending it's okay. Georgiev's a guy that I don't really know what I expect out of him on a year-to-year basis, but like it's not bad. This Colorado team is nothing that we don't already know that they are. Which is why I'm going to safely and confidently say second in the Central is going to be where they're going to end up. They're a safe team to be good. I don't know if they have the ceiling of a couple other teams in this division. And in terms of something, you called them kind of like fun things we throw in terms of our kind of bold takes. This one's not fun. I think Gabe Landeskog's done. I don't see this guy playing hockey again. We talked about, it could be last year and like January. And I was like, well, maybe for the playoffs. We're still here. There's no signs. The guy's got nothing to prove. He's now on the wrong side of 30. His health is going to be a question. I don't think he's back. And honestly, for his own sake, I don't think he should be back. So less on the fun side of some of these hot takes. I know it's fun to say that X player is going to over or underachieve. I think this organization, and I think it's important to highlight it, has to be prepared for life without him. I think that has been the reality. And even so, there's that level of like, but he's going to come back at some point. I don't see it. And I mean, honestly, go out, get yourselves a good third liner at the deadline. You'll be totally okay. I'm not worried.
Okay. Colorado, you're my favorite team, so I'm going to rank you high. I also have them pegged second in the Central. I think your top six are they're your top six. Like, there's not much more I can say about McKinnon, Drouin, and Rantanen. Landeskog, again, being another question mark. Another question mark is Val Nichushkin. As of right now, I believe, if not this month, possibly next month, he's eligible to ask to be reinstated. But this is now 2 years in a row that he has been suspended by the, player association for, in the playoffs. This is the second time it's happened. The first time we have a bit more context, something about Seattle and a hotel room, but this one we know as far as we know, he failed some sort of test. Speculation is that it was a drug test. We don't really know. But where does he slot in, if he does slot in at all? I think is a question. He was your top point performer, McKinnon aside, in the playoffs, and then he can't play anymore because of whatever happened, right? Like, what do you do with him? Landeskog, as much as I'd like to say I'd love to see him back, man, it's not looking good for him. And that really hurts to say. I think you'll probably end up giving McKinnon the C, realistically, if Landeskog doesn't come back. I'll go back to Toronto. They just gave Austin Matthews the C because he can lead by example. He won the Rocket Richard, has won a couple Rocket Richards, scored 69 goals last season. He can lead by example. McKinnon's also a guy who can lead by example. He was in contention for the Art Ross for a great majority of the year. One of my predictions is that he does win the Art Ross this year. Puts up points. Another thing I'll say, the defense core, fine. Great. Goaltending. I am not that hot on Georgiev anymore. Onuin hasn't proved enough yet to be your starter, so my other sort of thing is that I think they go out and get a new goaltender, either trade deadline or early into the season. Again, pending his performance, I don't think Georgiev should play another playoffs with the Avs. I really don't. Like, everything else about your team is strong. He's on a $3.4 million contract. He's at the end of this year. So if he wants that extension, he will have to prove it. I don't know if he will. But realistically, what other option? You have Onuin as your other option. You have what else do you have for in-house goalie options for your AHL affiliate? Mandelies and Minor. Okay, all right. But are they really NHL caliber now? Or possibly ever? I don't know. So, a couple question marks with this team. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that because we're out of time. Okay, so that moves us on to be Dallas, no?
Yep.
Moves on to Dallas. There's also a lot to like about Dallas, and I'll say it here. I think they win the Metro. I think they win the Central. I will retake that.
Oh no, I think that's the winner right there.
Okay, fine. I think they win the Central. There's not a lot to hate about this team. They came out improved. They can properly perform playoff hockey. I like Stankoven as sort of like not even necessarily late bloomer. Like, he got some chances near the end of the year and stuck with the team throughout the playoffs. I think he's a great performer. They just got beat. They had Edmonton on the brink, and then Edmonton came back and won. Like, a late resurgence. It is what it is. I thought they were going to go to the Cup final, honestly. Dallas. Their forward core, great. Love it. Robertson, Hintz, Johnson, Sagan, Duchesne, Marchment. Jamie Benn is Jamie Benn. He will do Jamie Benn things. Stankoven already mentioned. Bork still has a bit to prove. Dodonov, plenty good forwards. Their defense as well. Heiskanen, Dumba. Dumba's more of a question mark, really. Labushkin, who they just added from Toronto. Harley, Lindell, Lundqvist. It's perfectly serviceable as a defense core. Your goaltender, you need Ottinger to step up. I'm pretty, he has, and you have Casey Smith as your backup, perfectly serviceable backup as well. But Ottinger, at least to me, this might be a bit of a hot take. I don't think he has been proven to be, this conversation is there. He hasn't proven to me, at least, that he is top of his game. Again, there's a lot to like about this Dallas team. They're high up there. I think they take a step back, but nothing major. Again, I just said that they'll win the Central. My bit of a hotter take, which I think is funny, is that Jamie Benn gets traded in a 1-for-1.
For who?
I don't know. That's the beauty of it. And I'll leave it at that.
That would be one of the more insane ones. That's a hot take. That was a hot take. No complaints on the forward core, man. They depend on a couple young guys. Good, honestly. No, this is the league where you should depend on a couple of young guys. So, I mean, there is a certain extent. What will Bork do? What will Stankoven do? What will Johnson do? I'm not worried about that. I mean, the forward core is great. That is what there is to say on it. Defensively, Heiskanen is probably a top 5 defenseman in the league, to be fully honest. The left side of Heiskanen, Harley, and Lindell is disgustingly good. The right side is not as good. Distinctly not as good. It's not bad. In nets, I mean, Andre was a little bit down last year, but I mean, he has still been one of the better young goalies. His playoff numbers at times have worried me a little bit. Or I shouldn't say numbers. I don't know the numbers, but like the eye test has not always thrilled me with him in the postseason. But you can't prove that till the postseason. I can't worry about that in a season predictions ranking. I think Casey DeSmith is a great backup. Very underrated goaltender. I mean, first in the division is the most likely situation. First in the conference, I would say, is also likely to happen. And dare I say they would win the Metro too and claim the President's Trophy.
Ooh.
I might just.
Okay.
I might just.
That's a spicy one.
I mean, it's them or the Rangers to me. I will not be shocked either way, but like this team, I expect big years for the young three I mentioned. I expect a big year from Ottinger, and I think that will all translate into a perfect storm of exactly the type of year this team needs.
Okay. Minnesota is now next on the list. Do you want to lead off Minnesota?
Up to you. If you got things to say about it?
Yeah, you know what? I'll start off with Minnesota. I'm not super high on this Minnesota team. I think they could take steps forward, well, obviously, but you know, I have you ranked at 6th in the division. You haven't proved that you can succeed against such a tough division to fight in. You know, we just talked about Dallas. We just talked about Colorado. Like, are you going to win over those two teams? I don't think so, at least not with this group. I love Kirill Kaprizov. That, you know, aside. Zuccarello, Boldy, Eriksson Ek, perfectly fine. Foligno, Lauko, who's an ad from Boston. Jakob Trenin, fine. The defenseman Faber, I think, is probably going to be a standout defenseman. I think he'll end up nabbing 60 points this year. Probably more. I believe he was runner-up for this year's Calder, but you know, it went to Connor Bedard. As much as I love Marc-Andre Fleury, I don't know that he's going to get a lot of play time between Gustafsson and most likely Wallstead. I have it in my thing that he'll make it to 560 wins if Gustafsson is out. You know, he's getting up there in age, but you know he can still perform as a stopgap measure. Like, he's Marc-Andre Fleury, right?
Sorry, you said he'll get to 560 wins?
Yes.
He's at 560 wins.
Is he? Oh, shit. Okay.
He will win 0 games. That would be a hot take.
That would be a hot take.
Wins 0 games.
Okay. He will get
one
to
game. Sorry.
Yeah, -1 game. Okay, my bad. He will get to 570 wins. Then he will win 10 games, probably more. Yeah.
Your hot take is minimum. I thought you were saying like he was only going to win 9 games. I was like, all right, that's a hot take.
No. You know, I don't know if he'll get a lot of playtime between Gustafsson and Wallstead. Again, providing Gustafsson performs well, which he should. He's their starter for the reason. And Wallstead is looking more increasingly like probably gonna end up being your backup, if not your future starter.
Oh, definitely. I mean, people don't really talk about Gustafsson quite right. He had a bad year last year, to
Mm.
be fully honest. He wasn't great. Year before he was insane. But last year was a bit of a weird year for him. This team was a team I went into the rankings like before I sat down and I ironed all the details out. I thought I was going to be really high on this team. And then I looked at the rest of their division and I went, not. I mean, it's a team where the stars are there. Kaprizov, Rossi, Zuccarello, Boldy, Erikssonek. Tremendous, tremendous five guys. You got some great depth in Hartman and Foligno. That Trennan deal is a nightmare. I don't know what happened there that they signed that. That's insane to me. Defensively, Brodin and Faber are solid. Spurgeon's getting up there, but he's still not bad. The rest of it's not great. It's gonna come down to the goaltending. I think Wallsted's gonna see at least 20 games this year, which is not, I think, necessarily how people project it, but Gustafsson had a rough year. Fleury's old. There's a lot of opportunities here for a young goalie to come in through either injury or performance. Despite that, I've got them sitting pretty comfortably in fifth place, which actually is enough to net them a playoff spot.
Okay.
I think both wild cards are going to the Central this year, which I is again one of those things I did not think I was going to say. I was like going because you go in, you kind of have an idea how things are going to go. I think they just sneak in, and I don't necessarily think it's because they're great. I think it's kind of a swarm of mediocre teams, kind of like the Capitals and the Islanders and the Penguins and the Red Wings fighting last year. I think we're going to have one of those.
Okay. Fair enough. Next on the docket is Nashville.
I might be unpopular for this one. I don't think this team's going to be that great. I'm not wowed by the forward core. Obviously, the big addition is Steven Stamkos. Everyone's looking at Stamkos. 4 years, $8 million. I don't love it. I don't know that taking him out of Tampa Bay and putting him somewhere else is going to work to the level that people think it's going to. I think we're going to see some drops on his numbers across the board, to be fully honest with you. And you've now I guess the question I struggle with Steven Stamkos is Steven Stamkos a guy that drives play for you at this stage of his career? And maybe, I mean, he's a point per game guy. He'll score 40 goals for you. Cool. Does he drive the play? Because he's going from Point and Kucherov to, I mean, Puckpedia has him on the second line right now with Tommy Novak and Jonathan Marchessault. That's not bad. That's not a bad second line. Novak was great last year. It's not the same. And I think they are counting on him to step in and fill a hole that I'm not 100% confident he's good enough to fill at this stage of his career. And again, it's not a diss on Stamkos. He could go out and score 90 points again, and I'd be like, yeah, okay. But is that the step that this Predators team needs? Is he the guy for $8 million that this team really needed? I think the defense is still solid for the most part, and UC Saros is UC Saros. Hard to dispute that. I struggle to look at this roster and pick out something that makes them better than some of the other teams. I think they could easily swap with the Minnesota Wild on goaltending, but I have them sixth. I do not have this Nashville team in the postseason. And you got to remember, this team sucked last year for quite a while. Are they the team that sucked? Are they the team that went on a rampage after not being allowed to see you two, or are they somewhere in the middle? I think it's probably, most people would agree, probably the third one. And I think too much of the season depends on UC Saros. He's getting older. Old goalies get hurt sometimes. And he's not old yet, but, he's got enough mileage on him that he could miss time. I'd be shocked. I have them sixth. I don't feel great about it, but I have them sixth.
Okay. Let's I think they will make the playoffs. I think it'll be more of a struggle too, which is why I have them in a wild card spot in the Central. Um, I think that what will fuel Stamkos and likely Marchessault too. I don't know if it'll be spite because
Revenge.
we've seen it happen with some players. Like they'll get traded and then they have standout seasons after they were traded. Stamkos, maybe you gave up Stamkos to get Jake Gensel. It's a trade, like as much as it stings Tampa Bay fans, it was probably the right thing to do at this edge of Stamkos' career. Does it suck? Yes, especially if you're a Tampa Bay fan and you love Steven Stamkos. It was probably the right thing to do. Marchessault as well. I think maybe he'll be more the play driver than Stamkos is. That was one of your concerns. I think Marchessault will fill that gap just fine. I like their forward core. Their depth is iffy. It's all right. I think their defense is pretty solid too. It's not standout, but solid. They do rely on Yusei Saros, and so I'm sort of counting on Wedgwood to help backstop the gaps between Saros. That would have gone to Askarov, who is now on a different team because Nashville made it clear that they're banking on Saros, giving him a new deal. Which,
Not even they. I don't know. I assume you saw the story. They like approached Askarov and were like, "Hey, man, we have a plan."
hmm,
Did you see about this?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, well, we have to sidetrack this because this is a story worth telling. Because if you miss it, then I'm sure some people listening.
Okay.
They basically, after Askarov was traded, like one of the goalie coaches was like, "Yeah, man, I was pretty disappointed. Like we kind of sat down with him and we told him we had this plan to get him to a starter. Brother, you have Saros for the next 9 years.
Hmm.
What do you mean you had a plan? You're disappointed he didn't believe in the plan. Like, why would he stay? You're paying him $9 million a season for the other guy. Just be a backup for 9 more years, and then you'll get your chance, man. Don't even worry about it."
Yeah.
And it was weird because I think everyone would have been like, "Oh, you chose Saros over Askarov. All right, that's reasonable enough. Cool. You
Hmm.
didn't have to lie, guys."
Yeah.
But yeah, they apparently had some great vision for him to be the starter in a decade. But Askarov rightly went, "No,
Yeah.
that's dumb."
And is now sent to. Well, we'll get to them.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. But yeah, I'm fairly high on this Nashville team. I have them making the playoffs again at a wild card spot. I think it's fine. Again, they need a lot of things to go right for that to work, but I think they will do it.
I don't hate it. Again, I could be wrong on that Nashville team. I wouldn't be surprised in the least. I just thought about Minnesota tells me it's them. I also
Okay.
love Krill.
Hmm. That leads us to the Blues, if I'm not mistaken, St. Louis.
Not very often does a team have as loud of an off season as the St. Louis Blue, and still leave me looking at the roster going, cool. Because I don't know how much there is to think about that. The
Hmm.
forward core is fine. They've got some real good players. I mean, Thomas, Kyrou, Neighbors was a great surprise for the team last year. There is pieces there. It's fine defensively. It's a little bit on the old side, but it's not bad. Obviously, the two additions in Holloway and Broberg are kind of most people's focus.
Hmm.
Binnington is still quite a good goalie, and we kind of talked about him last game. Had a real resurgent year last year. If only he could stop trying to like head chop people,
Hmm.
that would greatly help his reputation. Um, I don't think this team's going to be great necessarily. The depth is full of guys who are acceptable, and that's kind of where I feel about them.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily think Holloway's going to turn around and blossom. I don't necessarily know that it's going to be a 1 year. All right, this guy's a stud now. I think Broberg has a much better chance at that, mostly because for him to learn under, Colton Parayko's a great teammate for him to have. Like it's stepping out onto the ice and you look at Colton Parayko and Broberg on the ice at the same time, you're just like, oh no. Life's gonna suck for the next 45 seconds. And you're right, it's going to be awful.
Hmm.
I think Broberg's going to take a real step this year. He hasn't really played a full season, so I think it's going to still be filled with some real headache moments. He's a young defender. That's okay. I'm not really sure that Holloway is going to jump around and have a big season, and I'm not really sure that this team's going to be able to do very much. I got him seventh, and I just think they are kind of in their own spot in this division. I think every team above them has a bit of a gap, and I think they're better than Chicago. Doesn't say much though, because sucks.
That's
But
sort
yeah,
of a low bar.
comfortably in seventh is where I think this team belongs.
Okay, I have them a touch higher. I have them. You said seventh.
Mhm.
I have them in fifth, just above Minnesota.
Ooh.
I don't think it's going to be very high over Minnesota, but I do have them above Minnesota. Um, my prediction is that Buchnevich does not re-sign with the Blues and ends up going away as a UFA. Um, oh yeah, I think the defense. I agree with the duo, the tandem of Pareko and Broberg, assuming they do end up on the same line, which maybe not. Puckpedia doesn't have that listed, but it's possible some power play stuff will happen with them. I think it's a solid D core. Their forward core, I'm less thrilled about. I like Texier. Oh, do you have a question there or
I hate to burst your bubble.
okay?
As soon as you said you didn't think Buchnevich would resign, I went, something seems wrong with that. Pavel Buchnevich has already signed an extension.
Did he? Oh, okay.
6 years, $8 million per season through the 2031 campaign.
Ooh. Okay, that's one prediction broken.
0 for 2 now.
Oh for 2.
You're wrong on
Jesus
Buffalo
Christ.
and you're wrong on St. Louis.
That's fine.
Although
Predictions are meant to be broken.
Although to be fair, this one was done on July 2nd. You just missed this.
Okay. Okay.
Like at least the Buffalo thing was after. This one you just do you have another one you want to throw another take at us here?
Let's see. Chicago acquires Brendan Saad. No, sorry, Edmonton acquires Brendan Saad.
I could see Chicago being like, he was there like 3 times. Let's go to 4th.
Yeah.
Brendan Saad to Edmonton. I think that could work well. 2 years at 4.5 though is a lot for them to swallow.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that a certain GM that manages that has acquired Brendan Saad. In fact, it'd be like the 4th time. Anyway, so the Buchnevich thing aside, this team doesn't wow me. I think they'll be higher than Minnesota, but like not very higher than Minnesota, but higher than Minnesota. Where does that take us to now?
The Utah Coyotes. Arizona Hockey Club.
Ooh.
I think this is the new era for this team. This team has always had some talent. I've always been pretty big on the Coyotes, both in terms of loving the team as a whole and just generally thinking that they've had the pieces in place. That has not changed. I like a lot of what this team is throwing out. Like Clayton Keller is a star in this league.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is really, really good. And they've got other young talents around him. Dylan Guenther, Barrett Hayden, McBain's probably not a high-end talent, but he's good. Josh Doan's going to get another chance to go. The forward core has a lot of good pieces on it. We talked about it in the last one. Sergachev added on to the defense. Sean Dursey added on to the defense. John Marino added on to the defense. Those are 3 very legitimate pieces. Ingram and Velzhmanka, man, that is my brain's not going to get that one out. Okay,
That's a bit of a difficult name.
I've never gotten it wrong before, and now I'm on camera, and it's all gone terribly wrong. I'm not fixing it. I'm rolling with it. Underrated goaltending duo. They haven't really had to do it for a good team yet, for the most part. So it'll be interesting to see a little more stakes added on how it holds. This team screams underrated. They are 4th in my Central. Big old X going into the postseason. I think the young talent's going to take a big step. I think how do I put this? The ability to know that it's a reset, it's a new club, you're in a new arena, new owners, new expectations. I think all of that is going to be a bit of a relief for these players. I think there's going to be a little bit of freedom that they're going to play with. I think we're going to see Barrett Hayden have a breakout season. He's going to have 50+ points. I think we're going to see Cooley make the team. He's going to have a chance to make an impact. Genther's going to have a chance to make an impact. This is not the Coyotes teams that have been absolute trash, with the exception of beating Nashville in the COVID year for some reason, for the last half decade or so. This is a young, exciting team that has made underrated pickups, has an underrated goalie tandem, and has an underrated defense core. As long as Sergachev is healthy, and admittedly, that's a pretty big question mark, this team is going to be in a position to do some damage. I think they're playoff bound.
Okay. I do not. I'll stick the caveat on this that when I mentioned St. Louis and Minnesota, like they're just barely eking out over that. I think Utah is part of that as well. I'll agree there's some underrated pieces. I don't know, man. Something about it just isn't striking me as playoff caliber yet. And I don't really know what that is because by all means, looking at their depth, I could see them doing it, but something doesn't feel right, and I don't know what it is. I agree with the tandem of Ingram and Vejmelka being perfectly serviceable. Again, not on a traditionally great team, but but it is a new spot, so maybe this is a bit harsh. They're in the basement for me. They're in the basement for me.
See, I knew this was coming because I knew you would put Chicago 7th, and I knew you weren't putting the next team 8th. You think this team, as it is currently constructed, is a worse team than the Chicago Blackhawks?
Something about this team irks me, and I don't know what it is.
Are you just sad the Coyotes left? Because like I am too, man. But like we
Yes.
can sort this out. Like,
I am sad the Coyotes left.
I don't think if you take out Connor Bedard, I don't think there is a single player in the Blackhawks who is Clayton Keller. I'm not sure there's a single player in the Blackhawks who is Mikhail Sergachev. I'm not sure. Is there even a Blackhawk who's Nick Schmaltz? Like, that stuns me. The depth on this team is better. The stars are better. I am fascinated as to what you see in Chicago over these guys because that is nuts to me.
Yeah,
that is nuts.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be a bit of a hot one when I put this, but like there's just something about it that irks me. I think Keller is a star. I think Cooley will do. I think Cooley might take a step back, honestly. I don't know. I like their third line, but it doesn't scream playoffs to me. I mean, I do like the Sergachev get as well, and they're finally spending money. But again, I made the caveat that, and maybe it's covering my ass. No, okay, it's a lot of covering my ass, but
you can't be like, they're in the basement, but like they could just make the playoff. No,
yeah. The caveat being that Minnesota and St. Louis, they're not very high above. I'll add Chicago in that as well, and Utah. Like, I feel like they're pretty interchangeable, just because I feel the Central is so strong, at least with your top competing teams. I just have Utah not, by some horse shit that we've seen this league do, Chicago will win more than the Utah Hockey Club.
Wow, that is a stunner of a take. That is how I will describe it.
There we go.
Anything's possible. I can't say it's impossible, but man, I want it. Man, I want it.
Okay. Winnipeg. The Jets. Do you want me to help ease that out of that?
All right. See what other claims and lies you can make about teams that I liked or used to like. Let's see it.
Keyword used to like. I have Winnipeg making the playoffs. As long as they don't fall apart, I think that's probably a given. Man, they had the chance to cut Colorado's head off, and they just did not. Like, that game where they went like 6-7 was the final, but oh my god, it's a taste of what could have been in Winnipeg. I don't think there's denying that this team is probably bound for greatness sometime soon. Again, I have them in the playoffs, earning a spot not at wildcard because I have Nashville for that wildcard spot, assuming that's how it shakes out. I like their forward: Kyle Connor, Shifley, Velarde, Perfetti, Nemetsnikov, Ehlers. Great. Lowry, Iafallo, I think maybe a bit underrated. Kupari, solid player. Niederreiter, solid player as well. Appleton, not super strong on Appleton at the moment, at least. Their defense: Morrissey, DeMello, I'm not sure on Morrissey, who's given. Connor Hellebuck, you no longer have the backup of Brossois, which was, you have Eric Comrie and Kakinen. Kakinen, if he plays for a fine team, we'll see what happens. Like, I'm not sure. A lot of this counts on Hellebuck being Vezina caliber again. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. He just won it. But it's such a finicky thing. I think they'll make it past the second round this time. Again, providing things don't fall apart, I think they do have the potential to do it. As long as, and this is a big if, the injury bug doesn't bite them. Because I have a feeling, and I don't know what it is, but I have a feeling it might bite them.
You say that this all depends on Connor Hellebuck being Vezina caliber. I say, welcome to the Winnipeg Jets. It's nice to have you. This team, outside of its goaltending, is a very inoffensive team. Shifley and Connor, forwards, are probably your two star guys. Ehlers, I think, has the talent to do it and has just been handcuffed by the coaches. And that's someone who watched him in Halifax and has watched him in Winnipeg. They are my number 2 team. They were my number 3. Thanks, Utah. It's cool. So I think he's gonna have a breakout. I think he can hit 70 points. I hope they give him the chance to. He's a UFA at the end of the year, so if he doesn't, I think he'll probably take his ball and go to free agency. But the forward core is deep. I mean, trading away Dubois and getting back, 3 big pieces in Velarde, Iafallo, and Kupari was huge for this team. What a reset that they did. Defensively, fine. All right, it's okay. A little top heavy, but it's fine. And Hellebuck. This team goes as far as Connor Hellebuck takes him. That's the way they have run for pretty much the entirety of Connor Hellebuck's career. It's going to be how they run again. I have them in third in the Central, taking one of the main spots. But again, they feel like the peanut butter and jelly sandwich of hockey. They're kind of a classic. You're like, yeah, well, it's good. It's been good. But you don't go to a restaurant and ask for peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They are just kind of fine. And unless Hellebuck turns it on in the postseason, I think that's kind of their ceiling.
Okay. For once, we're actually below time. It's the first time that's happened.
Okay, hold on. I got fill this. Let me cook.
But do you have a hot take?
No, not really.
And time.
Bill, we got there.
We got there.
Yeah,
that does it for the Central. I think. I don't know. Again, they're all predictions. We'll see what happens.
After we talk about the Pacific, we're gonna want to go back to the Central. That was the good part of this episode. It's all you guys should keep listening. It's gonna be good for you, but
yeah,
for the sake of my own enjoyment, oh man, it's gonna get bad. Oh, it's about to get ugly.
Anyway, so now we move on to the Pacific, where, oh boy, there are some teams. In fact, there are 8 teams in this division. And since we're going by alphabetical order, that means we begin with the Anaheim Ducks.
I don't think the Ducks will be basement dwellers. There's a lot of young talent here. Carlson, McTavish, Gauthier. That is a 3 that gets anyone excited. Full season of Zegras. More Troy Terry. That is a forward core that can do some damage. Defensively, it's okay. There's a bunch of serviceable guys there. Cam Fowler obviously still around. A couple young guys. Captain Radko Gudas, which Okay. That guy. It's one of those things where you're like, really? And you're like, yeah, you don't know the guy in the room. He's clearly a guy, as Joseph Wool discovered in one second round series, who gets the guys full of the passion
Yeah.
and also the egregious penalties that go uncalled, but mostly the passion. So like, fine, fair enough. Having Gibson out to start the year is going to hurt, but Dostal is a goalie you should not sleep on. Young, fun teams eventually have a year where they claw themselves out of the basement. That is this year. And I think they're going to be led by having some of the guys I mentioned before. Carlson, Gauthier, McTavish. All three are going to hit 50 points. They're going to guide this team up to fifth in this division. It's going to be a big step up year, and they are still going to be not in the playoffs. There are no wild cards in the Pacific. It is just the three teams. But this is a year where they give themselves a little bit of respectability, I think.
Okay. Um. Oh boy. Uh. I don't think this will be a step up year for them. I think that there's still growing pains to go through. And I think the huge question mark is Trevor Zegras. And I don't think that should be shocking either. Injured and sort of, will he be traded? Will he not be traded? They ended up trading Jamie Drysdale, which I think was a pretty big loss for Anaheim. They did get Cutter Gauthier as a replacement for your forward. Puckpedia is listing him as your first line left winger. I think Jamie Drysdale was. I'll say that with the caveat that Cutter Gauthier has not played many games, and Jamie Drysdale obviously has. Man, like this defense core, I don't know what to think about it. Gudis, I think people sleep on isn't the right word. I think he's a fairly fine defenseman. He's
People talk about him like he's a goon.
Yeah.
And he's a goon, but he's not a Colton or goon.
Yeah.
He's a goon that can play hockey. He can play hockey at a fourth defenseman level for sure. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. But I don't have a lot banking on this defense core. I think I think your top six are fine. We'll see what happens with Zegras. I'm not totally sure. You were banking on him being your franchise guy, and now you sort of don't know if he is anymore, or you're still thinking about it, but you're still not, you're flip-flopping between decisions with the guy that was pegged to be your franchise guy, and now you're not sure. He has 1 year left to prove it that he is, and I think he will. I think he will have sort of a bounce back season. I think they get to trade deadline in not last place, but I think they do end up in last place.
Okay.
I think there's still plenty of growing pains to go through. I'll agree that Dostal is probably slept on, but Gibson will sort of hurt them. But like, I don't know. There's just too much inconsistency and growing pains for me to rank them higher.
I'm okay with that. I mean, that's probably one of the larger differences in position, but I'm totally okay with it. I know I have them higher than most. There's a reason though. I have a team that I'm about to slam. The Calgary Flames.
The Calgary Flames.
The Calgary Flames. God, this team's gonna be bad. This is the team I'm slamming. By the way, spoiler alert if you were hoping it wasn't. I don't hate the fact that they're doing it. I think a rebuild is an acceptable option for this team. Except, oh wait, you're paying $7 million to Kadri for the next 4 years and 10.5 to Huberdeau for the next 6. Oh boy, this team's screwed. There's talent here. Sharangovich, Kuzmenko, Kadri. I still think Huberdeau's talented. I think Connor Zari's talented. Mantha's okay. I think they're probably going to try to use him in a higher role than he should be, but the forwards are okay. They're not great. The defenseman, after Uyghur and Anderson, is just not very good. And you want to talk about growing pains. Dustin Wolf is in for, I think, a bit of an awakening. He had an 893 last year. I don't think it's going to get a whole lot better. I think this defense is going to leave this man to die for 60 games this season, because I think he'll probably be the starter, or at least like 40 games. It'll be close. Um, like I don't know, like there's a couple guys who you're like, yeah, those are great players, and there's just a whole lot of nothing, and there's not really the cap room or the incentive to fix those gaps.
Mhm.
And I think so much of the season is they're going to try to copy the Jets and go, well, our goaltender will bail us out of it. Except your goaltender has played 18 games and has like an 896 career save percentage,
Mm.
and you're going to finish seventh in the division. You are near the basement. I do not think this team is very good. I do not think they are banking on the right people. And I think a few of the guys that they're going to be banking on, Kuzmenko, for example, obviously Mantha just signed the 1 year deal in general, are going to be gone. And this team is going to suck.
Okay. I think they're gonna suck. I don't think they're gonna suck that hard. I think, I sort of went on with Utah. There's going to be some amount of bullshittery. I think Calgary's due for some amount of bullshittery in this. They're not making the playoffs, but they're sitting fifth in my Pacific. Um, I do like Wolf. I know he isn't the greatest performer right now, but I think with the right incentive, he will be a solid goaltender.
Let me clarify something quickly.
Hmm,
I really like Wolf. Wolf has dominated every single level he's been at, but he's also had a team that was the caliber of the league he was playing in.
right.
Generally better than the average.
Hmm,
I just don't think he has that, and I think the NHL's a wake up call. I
okay.
think this guy is going to be gross. He's going to be disgusting. He's going to be so good in a few years. I just think he's about to be fed to the actual wolves.
Okay.
And a defense that, according to Puckpedia, has Daniil Miramov on the top pairing, which I don't think is accurate, but one of him or Kevin Ball on the second pairing. I don't think that's a good sign.
Okay. Um, I don't think these guys are basement dwellers. I don't think they're, like I said, I have them fifth in my thing just because of hockey bullshittery, and it's funny to think about it. Um, you know, they are they're no longer in this perpetual retooling phase. They do need a full on rebuild. I think they're sort of acknowledging that. Um, but I like some of the existing young pieces they have, and I think they're going to step up this year. I like Sharon Govich. He was a pretty standout. Pospisil interests me. Huberto is also a big question mark. Again, 10.5 million. He's in year 2 of that contract. Oof. I'd love to see him put up some points. I don't know if that's feasible though. But I mean, we'll see. I also like Connor Zary as well. In that, like, they have some good young pieces, and I think they're gonna step up where the veterans, can't fill the gap. Uh, there's not a great deal about this team that I like, but the key pieces that I do like, I think, win out, and that's why they're sitting fifth in my Pacific.
One Alberta to another.
Mm,
Edmonton Oilers. I think they're going to be pretty good, guys.
really?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if this is a hot take or a very, very unsurprising take. I think Zach Hyman is kind of the player he was last year. Maybe a few less goals. I mean, well, what he does is simple. Okay, but it's also really hard to stop.
Mm,
He goes to the net, he goes to the dirty areas, he picks up the garbage, he puts it in. Stopping that half the time is called an interference penalty, which I mean is better than a goal against, but like it's hard to stop him. This is a roster that I think for the most part has gotten better. Keeping Adam Henrique, I think, was a big step. Jeff Skinner, I think, is going to be a big piece of this process. Noah Vander Kane for a while stinks. Um, I don't think he's a world crushing loss at this stage of his career and at this stage of the team. Um, you got to do something with Nurse.
mm.
I know that's the obvious thing, but like, man, he can't be this player for that number for 5 more years. And the goaltending's a little bit questionable. I don't know how I feel about Skinner as a consistent guy year over year. But I mean, the Edmonton Oilers are the Edmonton Oilers. I have them second in the division. I'm not too worried.
Hmm. I also pegged them second in the division. There's not a lot to hate about this roster. It will become very top heavy within a year once the Draisaitl contract's already locked in. But he's at the 8.5 million for this year, and then next year he gets the big pay raise. McDavid's going to be in that boat too. Your roster is going to become very top heavy, and then you're going to have to shed some weight on it. And I don't know that you keep Skinner or Arvidsson beyond that. I have in my prediction, I think that the Skinner contract will age well. Arvidsson maybe less so. And maybe just because Skinner's only a year for 3 million, Arvidsson's 2 years for 4 million each. Nurse, there's not much I can really say that's new. Like, I predict that he could get banished to the third line, honestly.
I don't think it helps though. You're still putting too much money into that guy. Like,
Yeah, but
if your
like,
solution is to shelter him, you're not solving the problem.
yeah, but
Doesn't matter. I don't care about how he plays. I care about the number.
yeah, no, but like, what do? You either light a fire under his ass and get him to play well, or you just have him sit there. Like, you know, he's in year 3 of an 8-year contract. Do you find someone crazy enough to take on that contract? I think it's possible. No, I
No.
think if you
If
get like, here's maybe an interesting one. Okay, maybe not interesting. I think it's possible a basement dwelling team they're gonna have to pay out their ass for it if they have the capital to do so. I think it's possible that they could find. It's probably gonna be the shittiest deal. I think they could possibly trade Nurse, but it's gonna be
I
the
think
shittiest deal for
I
the
think
team
it's too
getting him.
bad for them to consider. I don't think it's an option to consider, and I think they probably assume they can fix him.
Hmm.
This guy, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think he was ever worth the money he got.
Hmm.
Was a very legitimate top four defender before this deal. He's not a bad player necessarily. He's just severely overpaid.
Hmm.
But you can get this guy back up to a different level. It's just what happened to him.
Hmm.
Like, I don't think they're willing to consider the type of deal that you're suggesting. And I mean, if I'm a team and Edmonton calls me for any cap relief, I am simply going, how many draft picks do you have in the next 5 years? And they'll be like, I don't know, 28. And I'll be like, yeah, I'll take those.
Hmm.
Thanks, man. And of course, Edmonton goes, no. And they hang up the phone. But like, no one's giving this team a break,
Yeah.
especially because, Kane's on the IR right now. That money's going to have to come back. They're going to have to figure something out there. McDavid is up 2 years from now, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not helping you at all until he's signed.
Yeah.
I'm not freeing up that $9 million for you to re-sign McDavid. I would rather wait, make you sweat, because either you don't know how to re-sign him or you have to make the deal then.
Hmm.
And then I come in and you overpay me. I don't think it's an option that's on the table for them. But man, it's a weird spot for them for sure.
Next up in the list, the LA Kings, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're gonna be playoff caliber. I think they're gonna get the third in the Pacific. I think they're gonna get the wild card spot. Um, they are sort of more of an aging team than not. Your goaltending tandem doesn't fill me with a great deal of confidence. That said, I have maybe a bit of a hot take here, and that Kemper returns to form. You also have Dave Riddick and Phoenix Copley as your second and third. You can slot them in wherever you want. I'd like to see Darcy Kemper perform the way he did in Colorado. But there's still some question marks on this. Drew Doughty is on IR as of right now, as of recording this. We're not sure how long he'll be out for. Pretty massive blow to, your heart and soul guy on your team. Your forwards are your forwards: Laferriere, Kopitar, Kempe, Fiala, Byfield, Fogle. Deneau Moore, Tanner Jeannot. Tanner Jeannot is still maybe a bit of a wild card in that case. And then your fourth line is, your fourth line, as I'm reading this, you don't have a fourth line center. I'm sure that'll be fixed. Um, you know, but your downfall is also, aside from, I don't know, man. Like, if you get put with Edmonton again, I don't think you're winning again. This would likely be the fourth time you get pumped from the first round. If you face Edmonton again, a big if, but the playoffs will shake out how they do. You never truly know what ends up happening with them. I think if you do get pit with Edmonton again, they'll win the first round. You're done. But if you get with any other team, I think you do have a legit case to get past the first round. But another question is, do you stick with the 1-3-1? Like, it's been talked about before. Like, do you abandon it? And I don't think so. I think you're gonna stick with the 1-3-1. Just
I don't know if they
because,
have the talent to abandon it.
yeah, that's the thing as well. Like, your defense core as of right now, barring Drew Doughty, Gavrikov, Spence, Edmondson, Clark, Burrows, and Anderson. You also have England under contract for one more year. I don't know, man. I'd like to see you do something. I just don't know that you will. Again, that being said, I have you as getting the wild card spot.
The LA Kings were on the up and up for a few years. Looked promising. They're in
Oh,
the Oilers.
I should mention they don't have the wild card spot. They have the third spot. Sorry.
Okay. This team's done. There were two moves this season, or this offseason. Tanner Jeannot for a second round pick and Joel Edmondson for $4 million that made me go, okay, this team has no idea what they're doing. I talked about inoffensive of the team. This is inoffensive of the team. You've got some guys that are borderline stars. Kopitar, Byfield. I would say Fiala is a star. Kempe's probably in that borderline. Well, what about Drew Doughty? Well, what about him? He's gone for a while. Your defense core does not inspire me at all. I think too much money to some guys that maybe don't deserve. Like, there's nothing here. I don't see any level of team that competes with, and we're going to get there to one of these teams because you didn't put one of these teams in the top three: Vegas, Edmonton, and Vancouver. They're not any of those teams. They don't have the goaltending. They don't really have the defense. They don't have the offense. They're aging on some of the players that they really don't want to age. And I think this team is adrift at sea. These guys do not know what they're doing. I don't think they make the playoffs. They are sitting in my fourth spot. They do not clinch a wild card. They do not pass go. They do not collect 200. I just don't see it on this team. The centers are great, man. To know at 5.5 is still a nice contract. And Byfield at 6.25 is probably going to be one of the steals of the next couple years. It's just, I don't know. It's not really enough to me. Too many guys that you're banking on who, to me, are either marginal players or are at risk of falling off, whether it's due to age or physicality, like a Trevor Moore. He's 29. He plays a hard nosed game. Tanner Jeannot plays a hard nosed game. That stuff can come back to bite you sometimes earlier than you think. And this was a team that had the best prospect pool in the league for a while, and they have squandered it. I feel so little when I look at this team that it makes me feel anger, but then I go back to feeling nothing. It's a very confusing cycle. They are fourth, they are mediocre, they are not good enough.
Okay.
Fart. Just
And with that, we move to the San Jose Sharks. Oh boy, San Jose. You do not fill me with a lot of confidence, despite getting Celebrini this year. God. You have Eklund, Celebrini, Tyler Toffoli as your first line. I think that's perfectly serviceable. Granlund, Smith, Zetterlund is your second line. I also think that's perfectly serviceable. Wenberg, Kunin, Gaudreau. Okay. I can see it. You don't have a fourth line left winger. Sturm and Costin as your fourth line. Ugh. That is a fourth line in the NHL. Also, your defense, Mario Ferraro and Cody Ceci. That's your top pairing. Jake Wallman, Benning, and then Thrun and Ruta. Also, you have Vlasic sort of there, but that's sort of a given. But like, this team does not inspire confidence at all to me. You got Askarov from Nashville. I think that was a pretty solid get, providing he can play some quality games for you. But that quality of game is the San Jose quality of game. I don't think they're basement dwellers. They're ranked 7th in my Pacific here, above Anaheim. There's just too much uncertainty in what there is here, in what I'm seeing. Again, I like their forwards. I think they could do some damage. But I think the defense and goaltending could bite them in the ass for it. Askarov likely to be your starter, I think. That's what Puckpedia has here. We're not sure. You also have Mackenzie Blackwood and Vitek Vanacek there as your others. This team doesn't inspire confidence at all. You also have Logan Couture, your captain, on injured reserve. We're not sure how long he'll be there for. But
again, another guy, I think he's probably done at this point. I would be shocked to see him play games.
Yeah. So, plenty of growing pains. Again, I mentioned for Anaheim, plenty of growing pains to go around. For this team, you have a bunch of guys who are either at the end of their deal or who are just starting their new deal. I don't think you're going to be very good, San Jose, and I don't think you'd be shocked by me telling you that either.
No Askarov to start the season. No Celebrini to start the season. Both are out for at least game number 1. Let me spare you this one, Sharks. You're not going to be very good. I kind of like this team. I don't really know why. I do kind of like the Sharks. There's not much here. There's some young pieces to look forward to, and you just hope that they give you enough to make the season bearable, because y'all are going to be last. There's just not much here. I think Askarov's going to catch an unfortunate case of the Dustin Wolf, but worse, because instead of the Flames, he's on the Sharks. And I think that's the reality. It's not a very good team. Sorry, but not really sorry. I don't know how much more there is to say. Thanks for Eric Carlson. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I sure hope we can actually use him in the postseason at some point. Because you and I play the same amount of playoff games, so who's really dumb?
That's all I got. That's all you got? We still have 30 seconds left.
No.
San Jose. Any wacky takes? I have Celebrini gets 40 points total.
It's a good take. So that's a bold take right there. I like it.
Yeah. I don't think
I got
anything more.
No. It's not meant as an insult, I swear.
No, but I mean, Sharks fans aren't going to be surprised by that fact either. The question I think is, and I'll maybe pin this, do they do another tank job?
Yes.
Almost without hesitation.
That defense, man. Oh, the offense is passable. That defense hurt. They are projecting Cody Ceci on the first pair.
That's what I said.
I don't need to add anything more. I've made my point. Why am I still talking about it?
Okay. With that, we move on to the Seattle Kraken.
Meh. This division, man, this division. It really does hurt my brain to talk about a little bit. Underperformed last year. Let's say that first and foremost. I mean, I wasn't sure they were going to repeat what they had done. They just weren't very good last year. The goaltending is inconsistent. Joey Decord should get a real hard look as the starting goalie this year. He earned it. They add Chandler Stevenson. They add Brandon Montour. This is clearly a team that would like to compete and thinks that they can. I don't really agree with that.
Okay.
I don't have a particular reason. Part of me is thinking that Matty Beniers is going to jump right back to form. If that doesn't happen, you are screwed. You need he's only 21. Like, you don't need him to in the sense of like his career's on the line. But any shot of competing is Matty Beniers steps up and becomes a superstar.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't been that yet in his career. He was very good as a rookie. He wasn't a superstar. Beyond that, you're relying on some actually really solid depth. This is one of those teams that can roll 4 lines really, really easily. And honestly, you could deploy the ice time 25, 25, 25, 25, and I don't think anyone would be that upset by it.
Hmm.
I think the defense is fine, and the goaltending, who knows? But it feels a little uninspired after last year. I don't necessarily think Chandler Stevenson was worth the money. I think that's a bit of a regrettable deal. I'm totally cool with the Montour deal. I think he's going to be pretty good.
Hmm.
He's going to have to drive it a little more than he had to in Florida. And I mean, he wasn't great before he got to Florida, but in fairness to him, he was in Buffalo. And not current Buffalo. I'm talking the bad,
Hmm.
and they're not great now. So I like the step ups. I don't think they'll be bad per se, but I don't think they have an X factor that can put them over a young, exciting team in Anaheim or the pieces that LA still has. I have them sixth, but probably a pretty healthy gap away from Calgary and seventh.
Okay. I think I like this team a lot actually. I think they're a sneaky good team. Goaltending aside, I'll agree that Duckhorn probably deserves a good look for your starter. Grubauer, I'm not sure what you do. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He could be used as a trade bait, but
No.
hmm,
Okay, I can imagine the phone call now. Oh, you want to do a trade? Okay. You want this, that? Okay. What are you offering us? Oh, I shouldn't have thrown.
yeah, for
I probably shouldn't have thrown that, but the
no.
bit was worth it. I have a
Uh,
case. It's fine.
yeah, I think this is a sneaky good team. I think Beniers does step up. I think that their ads were a solid get. I like uh who did they get? Oh my god, I'm blanking. Montour is very solid. Decord they did just acquire, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they've had him a little bit.
Oh, have they had Decord a little? Okay.
He was an expansion pick
Oh, okay, okay.
because they
Um,
left him and Matt Murray open and they went for him, which was the right move.
okay, and then Chandler Stevenson as well. Um, like I think this is a sneaky good team. I have them earning the wild card in the Pacific.
Okay.
Um, I think they're starving for more of that playoff hockey, which they've had a taste of. I think they want more, and I think they're going to step up in a big way and earn it and earn that wild card spot.
I think it'd be good for hockey. I would have no issue with that being true.
Hmm.
We're down to our last couple teams.
Yes, we are.
Our last Canadian team first, the Vancouver Canucks. You wanna start us with this because
Yeah.
I think I know what you're about to do, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I'm gonna like it very much.
No.
I have a feeling.
What do you think I'm about to do?
No, no, you go. One of Vegas or Vancouver. I suspect you were about to do dirty, but that's okay.
Okay. Well, I'll make it easy. I think Vancouver's gonna be good. I think
Okay,
they're gonna
good
be.
start.
I think they're gonna be a good team. Um, Added Danton Heinen, DeBrusk in the off season. Sprong, if I'm not mistaken, as well. They had to
Great ad.
do. Yeah, they had to do some a tiny bit of shedding. I think they filled in those gaps pretty well. Um, the big question mark is goaltending right now. Thatcher Demko is still a bit of an unknown. So as of right now, again on Puckpedia, you have Artur Shilovs and Lankinen, who Lankinen has had a pretty good look in the preseason so far. Are either of those like your guy? I think Shilovs could be for the future. Is he your guy right now? Is a big question that needs to be filled because again, Demko is still an unknown. I like their forward group. I think it's great. I think it's pretty solid. Their defense, I think Hughes wins Norris for this upcoming season. I don't think that should be shocking. I think Brock Besser as well gets some pretty solid money providing he can perform. He's sitting at 6.6 million last year as a UFA. I think if he performs well, he could definitely grab some. Yeah, I like what they did in the offseason. Again, had to do some shedding, filled the gaps in pretty well. Also, the prospect pool is looking pretty all right as well. I'm not. There's a couple of names that I won't say wowed by, but I think could fill in the gaps as well and be solid call-ups if needed. Um, Connor Garland, Teddy Bluger, Niels Höglander. Great. I think this is a solid team. They are first in my Pacific, and I actually have them uh, winning the conference.
Maybe I'm the one that's got them low because I have them third.
Okay.
I think expecting JT Miller to score 100 points again could be a lot. I think expecting the general health of your core to be that strong. Because, I mean, between Miller, Hughes, Pedersen, Besser, Hronik, Garland, your top point scorers, none of them missed more than one game. That's a lot to bet on. Expecting anyone to fill in for Demko is a lot. I think there's a lot of question marks. And, like, the problem with the Demko thing is from the way it's been told to us, this isn't, oh, I hurt myself, let me go take time and recover. This is the rest of his life. He is going to have to deal with this on the ice and off the ice. That is a harder thing for me to go, oh, well. I think there's a lot of question marks around this team in comparison to where they've been. I think, with that being said, it's still a very talented roster. I'm not sure. I think they're better than they were. I think losing Lindholm and Zadorov hurts. Specifically, Zadorov, I don't feel like he was replaced super adequately. Easier said than done, but I have them in a very solid third. I think Pedersen's going to step up, be the guy. I think JT Miller, I'm calling a little bit of a fall off. He's going to drop under 90 points this year, which would be just the second time in 4 years because he had 99 points in 2022, 82 points 2023, 103 last year. I just don't know that a little bit of him was, oh my goodness, this guy caught the league by storm and was like running away with scoring titles for a little bit. And then he kind of cooled off. I think there was a little bit of adjustment that was made to him. I do think it's a good team. I like the depth. Man, I like Lankinen, and I think Silovs can be something. But if those are your guys for the season, I can't put you over Connor McDavid with those two goalies.
Okay.
We got one. That takes us to our last team.
It does.
My division winners, the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh, wow.
Is that surprising? Really? The Vegas Golden Knights always do the crazy, insane, borderline batshit things that they need to do to field a roster that is probably better than it has any right to be. That is exactly how I feel about this roster this year. Goaltending, I feel really good about. I think Ilya Samsonov is going to have a great year behind Hill. I think here's the he is a goalie who is very talented and can be shaken easier than a maraca. With that being said, I think there's a lot less pressure on him. He's not the guy. He is not the guy. He knows he's not the guy. He doesn't have to be the guy. I think that is going to go a long way for his confidence. I think he's got a way better defensive core in front of him, and that's not a shot at the Leafs. This defensive core is disgustingly good. One of the best in the league. He's got superstars like Eichel in front of him. Thomas Hertl is in front of him, who's a player that I consistently forget is on this team and will promptly remember the second the season starts. Alex Holtz, I think, is a great buy low candidate from New Jersey who can be plugged into this lineup and instantly succeed. Mark Stone goes without saying. Barbashev. This team is disgusting, and you know what? They are currently listed as being, what is this, $3.64 million over the salary cap. That's a lot of money. This team will find a way to end up under the cap and then make a trade for a guy making $5 million because they're Vegas and it's funny to them. You'll go out and do that at cap circumvention and they'll laugh in your face because they're Vegas. This is the only team in the league that runs themselves this way. I think Tampa took a step in the direction by letting Stamkos go. They will do whatever it takes. And I see that as no different. And I have them sitting atop the division as a result.
Okay. Mine's a bit hotter than that.
See, I knew one of the teams was about to be done, Derry. What are you about to do to this team?
I think Vegas has been rolling high for too long. I'll be honest. They've made the playoffs consistently. I think they're gonna get hit by something, and not perform to the best of their abilities. I like their defensive core. Pietrangelo, he's great as is. He's 34 now, so he's getting up there. Still, I think on the right side of 30 as far as defensemen go, but he's getting up there. You got to find a way to replace him eventually. You have a lot of players as well that are nearing the end of their contracts. Like Eichel, he's only got 1 year left on a $10 million deal. If he performs well this season, he's going to want coin. I don't think that's even shocking either, right?
Respectfully, you are listing a whole lot of not this year problems.
That's true. That is fair.
Like you're everything you said is correct. Although I'm not worried about Pietrangelo yet.
Okay.
That's the only point I would argue so far. All of that. I think if they win a Stanley Cup this year, they go cool. Whatever, man. So I'm curious how this is going to tie in.
I don't know. I think they've been rolling. Again, I mentioned they've been rolling high for too long. I think the injury bug might hit them this year in the Pacific, or in the Western, or Pacific as well. Aiden Hill and Ilya Samsonov. I've said my woes about Samsonov before.
You have every right to.
Yeah, I have every right to. Aiden Hill, he proved he could be the guy in the 2023 run. I don't know. There's just something about his game, to me, that's questionable, and I don't know what that is. I respect this team, but I think they're due for a come down because they've been flying too high for so long. Story of Icarus, right? I think they've been flying high for so long. I know it's incredibly cliche, Ryan, but I think they're due for a fall, and I think that'll be this year.
I feel like respectfully, this is a very vibes oriented pick.
Sure.
I feel like this is very vibes aren't always wrong, to be fair to you. But I feel like there's a lot of coasting on vibe here that you're going against. I don't know.
That's fair.
I'm not so. And again, terrible division too. To me, that is also part of it. Like, even if they were to have a fall off, like this division still sucks. So, are they going to have a fall off enough to lose those games too?
I think it's possible.
I'm going to be fascinated to check in with that one. I will not lie to you. I will be very fascinated.
Hey, that's fair.
So there it is. We'll get I don't know, can we get all four on the screen at the same time, or do we get 2 and 2? I don't know. Whatever works better for editor Liam. I'm not making promises on his behalf.
We'll figure it out, probably.
Here, look at these results. Laugh, point and laugh.
Point and laugh.
And then if we're right, we'll point and laugh.
Yes. Because I'm sure we're going to do a prediction debrief as well.
I would think so.
Yeah.
It'll be the summer. We'll need content.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I don't feel too bad about a lot of this.
No.
Looking back on it, I can't believe you have Utah last. That hurts my brain. That one upsets me. That might be more upsetting than the Vegas one, to be fully honest with you. Because at least you're not being yeah, well, they're worse than Chicago. But I feel great about my stuff. Maybe not Seattle. They're a bit of a weird. I don't know how I feel about them. But you know what? What do you think? Let us know. If you think we're wrong and dumb, which you probably do.
Call us names. Call us various things.
Handsome and correct, definitely let us know.
Yeah, it's true.
Are there any add-ons you want to throw in here, or are we going to leave it as it is?
Any add-ons I want to throw in here? I'm going to do one last quick check to see if anything has been done in the time that we have recorded both this one and the the Eastern Conference one. It doesn't seem like it. I mean, there's games ongoing, but it doesn't seem like it.
It'll be back to normal after this one. What I'll say while we're here, they should probably look at like a. I don't think they should be playing preseason games against their division ever again.
Yeah.
Just as a throw because like by the time the next episode comes out, we'll probably be in the regular season. We're not going to go back. So just to have thrown it in here at the end, how can you watch these Montreal games? Be like, yep, this is how we should be doing things.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say less games because I know a lot of guys like earn their spots in these games. Again,
Mm.
Harrison Brennicky from the Penguins is looking like he might actually get a shot with a team, which is insane. That was not an option when he was drafted.
Mm.
So I'm not saying get rid of them entirely, but like, do you really think Toronto and Montreal are two good teams that should play each other in the preseason and expect nothing to happen?
Mm.
I would disagree.
Yeah, and I mean as well, like the number of injuries as well that have come out, it's like staggering. This feels like it's almost like we've just gotten to the new year with the level of injuries that are happening. Like big superstar guys are out either day to day, week to week, month to month at this point, right? Patrick Laine, I mentioned, Panarin in the other episode. Um, you know, real big name franchise guys are out with injury in preseason.
Like, let's be honest, Montreal and LA, LA losing Doughty and Montreal losing Ryan Bacher and Line, their seasons might be over.
Mm.
Like that might be it for those two, especially Montreal having lost two guys in a very tough division. Like
Mm-hmm.
that could be the death knell in both these two seasons. And I don't even know who injured Doughty. And the guy who injured Line is a guy who's never going to touch the NHL. And then, Arbor Xhekaj comes in and just pounds the crap out of him in a way that is definitely not allowed.
Mm.
And then the next game goes out and kills like Tim Stützle. Like, man, I don't know. It's I'm hoping we're done with the injuries. I hate him at all times. Like, there's never a time where you're like, thank goodness an injury.
Yeah.
But like hearing about them in the preseason, especially,
Yeah.
like for what?
It's like the regular season doesn't even start until a week, right?
Like
Like,
it doesn't matter. You're
yeah.
you're you're losing your stars for now. And maybe it's a conversation where they just stop playing their stars.
Mm.
Maybe you stop. Like I know they use them to like gear up and stuff. Maybe you just don't.
Yeah. Or,
Maybe you.
the sort of trend that is, well, it's a trend. Like, they play more of their stars during the home games than they do away games. Like, all their away games, they're mostly call ups trying to earn spots on roster, right? I'm not opposed to them just playing, well, essentially their AHL roster to see who can make the team that season. I'm not opposed to that, right? Because
Yeah.
it's more for the AH, and it's not a hot take at all. It's more for those guys to earn their spot for the big club. So
Yeah, there's a
why
little bit
not?
of warming up, but
Yeah. So why not give them more opportunity to do so, and then have the stars, warm up however they like. If they want to play, they have the option to play.
yeah.
But just again, this may just be a this year type thing. But like Drew Doughty, Patrick Laine, Artemi Panarin, like so brutal and could easily spell doom for your season already, like you said.
Good news is the next episode we're not gonna have to worry about it.
Hmm.
It'll be the regular season. We're so back.
We're so back.
But with that, we're all done for today. Our predictions one last time. Have a look at them. Feel jealousy or anger, whichever one fits you more.
It's probably
We will be
anger.
checking back in the I was gonna tell them to be angry at us, but yeah.
No, you can go ahead and be angry at us.
We'll check back in on them. We'll see how we're doing, and of course we'll be with you the whole regular season. So we'll kind of know as they go along anyway. But with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being with us in the summer when there was no hockey to talk about. Because now we are so back, and we will catch you in the NHL regular season on the podcast is under review. Bye bye.